Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our 2026 Local Candidate Election Forum. My name is Kerry Perrin. I'm President and CEO of the Northern Brazoria County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm thrilled to have such a evening tonight for you and have it recorded for you, the voter, especially those of you who have not decided what you want to do yet. First and foremost, I want to extend a couple of thank yous for allowing us to do this. Right now, we're recording this in Redeemer Church in Manvel on Highway 6, so we're very grateful to them letting us use their equipment, use their house. This is such a big help to our community. Next, I want to thank the chairperson for our Governmental Relations Committee, Carolyn Waits. She's going to be moderating this evening, and so we want to thank her for all the work she does for us on this and how many times we often make her get on stage. And of course, a huge thanks to all of our candidates making themselves available to us so that we can get to know them and know where they stand on important issues. This forum tonight is not meant to be any sort of debate or have a rebuttal time. It's very much a just get to know the candidates and know where they stand on the issues. If you want to know more about these candidates, you can go to our local election guide, which is on our website at nbcchamber.org. Before we begin, I want to take a brief moment to remind you, the voter, how important it is to show up to the polls for local elections. It's these elections that have the most dramatic impact on your everyday life. So it's very important that you are informed and that you show up every time the polls are open. So thank you again for doing the work to be educated for this upcoming ballot. Tonight we will be hearing from candidates in 3 contested races: Manvel City Council, Iowa Colony City Council, and the Alvin ISD School Board. We want to acknowledge some of the uncontested races that you might see on your ballot, depending on where you are. You're going to see some Board of Regents candidates for Alvin College. You're also going to see some candidates from Alvin City Council if you live in that area, but those are uncontested races. Tonight, the vast majority have shown up to be here to be able to explain their positions on important issues for you. 2 of the candidates in the school board trustee race are not able to be here, but we pre-recorded their answers yesterday, and we will splice those into the video as you watch for the school board. With that, I want to turn it over to our moderator, Carolyn Waits, and I thank you again for watching.
Okay, now we are going to begin the forum with the Manvel City Council candidates. Before we start, I want to briefly explain the role of these candidates are seeking. A city council member serves as part of the legislative and governing body of the city. They are responsible for setting city policy, approving the annual budget, determining the local tax rate, and making critical decisions regarding zoning, infrastructure, and public safety. In short, they are the stewards of Manvel's growth, tax dollars, and quality of life. I'm going to go over the rules with both candidates before we get started. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make an opening statement regarding their experience, objectives, and platform. Each candidate will be given up to 1 minute to answer each question. No question will be asked that is directed at one particular candidate. All candidates' answers and statements will be timed. The timer will start when the candidate begins to speak. A yellow sign will signify that you have 30 seconds left for your reply. When you see the red sign, your time is up. Please stop speaking. At 65 seconds, the facilitator will move to the next candidate if you have not begun to finish your thought. Our time is limited this evening. We may not be able to ask every planned question. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a closing statement. All rules regarding timing, signage, and enforcement will be applied to the closing statement. Candidates are encouraged to use their opening and closing statements wisely. Think of them as a commercial for your candidacy. This is your opportunity to highlight your platform, share your vision, and let attendees know how they can connect with you or learn more about your campaign. After the event, there will be a form to fill out that will help us complete our post-event election guide, which will be shared with the community. Please be sure to fill it out before you leave. Participation in this forum is contingent on each candidate respecting the rules. Time will be strictly enforced. Should a candidate not comply, they will be asked to discontinue their participation in the forum. All right, y'all ready? All right. Please join me in welcoming our Manvel City Council candidates who will introduce themselves with an opening statement. And we're going to start on the end with JT.
Hello. Awesome. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the Chamber for putting this on. I am born and raised here in Manvel. Lived here a long time. I come from an era where, I used to go swimming in Almost Heaven, go dancing at Eddie's Country Ballroom. And if you never had the chance to listen to the Emotions play, I feel sorry for you. Those are some golden years. So you can say I'm from around these parts. I'm too old to have gone to Manvel High School, but I graduated from Malvern High School. Went to University of Houston for my engineering degree, go Cougs. And I spent about 2 decades in oil and gas. Everything from project engineer, project manager, sales director, and kind of everything in between. And then back in 2024, I had the opportunity to purchase my father's construction company and retire him out, give him something to do, learn how to play golf. And it's been great ever since. So I run my small business here in Manvel. Back in college, I met the love of my life, and she gave me two wonderful boys, and God willing, we have some more. So it's been a good growing up here in Manvel. It's been a fun time. We are raising our family here. We're raising the next generation here in Manvel, and so I care. I have a vested interest in seeing that the city does well and thrives, and not just the city itself, but also the citizens within that city. Because if all of my neighbors are doing well, then I'm doing well. So that's what I'm here to see, is to see that we have a targeted, responsible growth, and hopefully in the next few questions I can show how I'm going to do that.
All right. Jason, we're going to go with you next. I'm sorry, I don't
That's
even
cheating.
know.
Good evening. Thank you for the Chamber for having me, and JT here tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to show you who we are and what we stand for. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason Albert, and I'm running for City Council Place 5 in Manvel. I'm grateful for another opportunity to serve our community. I previously served 2 terms on City Council in Place 5 between 2017 and 2023. Also, I held the positions on the Manvel Economic Development, where for several years I was also the president. I spent the last 38 years in EMS, the last 10 of that as part of the executive command staff, where I have experience in setting and managing government budgets. During my time on council, I worked to lower taxes, hold developers accountable, making sure that we were bringing the right development to Manvel, not developing for the sake of developing. And I think that I brought transparency to all areas of the government that I was involved in when we were there. If I'm elected, I'll continue to pursue smart financial policy, encourage diverse economic development to help reduce the tax burden on our residents, support efforts to improve our quality of life, and most importantly, ensure that our government works for you and that public safety is of the primary concern.
All right, thank you very much. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and start with you with question 1. Manvel recently updated its comprehensive and thoroughfare plans to guide development through 2045. How will you use these plans to balance the preservation of Manvel's semi-rural character with the demand for new commercial and residential development?
Thanks, you. The comprehensive plan and the transportation plan are really important documents, because they're going to guide council in our decisions. And I think using the plan, the comprehensive plan was smart in trying to protect those rural developments, but the other side of that is I think it's smart that for the transportation plan that we're building the right roads to get through areas so that the rural areas don't get crowded with traffic. Let's look at some of our rural areas now. Del Bello Road, which used to be all farmland and nobody rode on those roads. Now everybody's cutting through there to get around, to get through the city, because we don't have the road infrastructure to get through. It's important that we follow those plans so that we don't impact the rural communities with the traffic that the development brings.
JT, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's okay. So, I live in that heavy rural area, and hopefully in my lifetime I never see that area encroached upon. What's great is the plan that was put out in 2020 is the citizens have already voted on what they want the city to look like. I don't have to play guessing games. I don't have to interpret anything. We just have to follow the roadmap that the citizens want us to follow, right? I think within that roadmap, we need to really focus on building up the commercial and heavy commercial, and not letting the dense residential kind of outgrow its zoning. So I think it's going to be an easy plan as long as we stick to the path that the citizens have already put us on.
All right, JT, we're going to start with you for question 2. With major projects along the Highway 6 and Highway 288 corridors, traffic and road safety are top concerns. How will you prioritize local infrastructure improvements while minimizing disruptions to existing neighborhoods?
So, most of the major thoroughfare updates are coming from TxDOT, which we need, Manvel needs to be heavily involved in those meetings. We need to sit there and make sure our citizenry's needs are being met. We need to cultivate that TxDOT relationship and make sure that we're present. But I live in that rural zone. I've watched traffic go from a few dozen cars a day passing my driveway to a few hundred cars a day. Like we've talked about, everyone's bypassing 288 and Highway 6 in that DeBello and Old Chuckle Bayou lane there, and I've witnessed many accidents. I've witnessed many near misses there on 1128. I've had the privilege of being able to test how good my brakes work when people come out off DeBello. I'm very familiar with the safety concerns there. I would love to see something like a merge lane there, so some of these cars can get up to speed before they try to merge in. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do without putting lights every 100 feet on 1128 and others. But yeah, I think there's lots being done.
Jason, same question.
Well, I think in my mind, we need to get better east-west movement, and this isn't going to be an answer that will be really popular with many of my personal neighbors. But I strongly believe that Charlotte needs to get completed to give us that access east and west so we don't have to rely on Highway 6 or DeBello, and we need to expedite getting Dogwood completed east and west into the north end of Valencia and DeBello Lakes, so that we have more access in and out of the area, and that emergency services has access in and out of the area. A crash on Highway 6 in front of the high school would completely delay an ambulance getting to some parts of the city because there's no way to get around. If they had to be on the other side, an ambulance would have to go all the way up to DeBello, down 288, and back to somebody to get into Blue Water, and I just don't think that's acceptable.
All right, our next question, we're going to start with Jason. As Manvel continues to attract large commercial developments, what specific strategies will you implement to ensure we are attracting high quality, higher paying jobs and supporting our local small businesses?
That's a great question, and in the green room, we were actually all kind of talking a little bit about that. Residential development is going to come, and I think we focus as people in the city and people on council, we focus on that kind of development. The developers, come to the city, and we almost are playing offense, or defense rather, when they come. I think we need to take and start playing offense. We should be working with the listing agents for all these big parcels of land and finding out, who they're marketing to and what's out there, and then working with them to say, hey, this is the kind of business we want to bring in. I don't think we're doing that hard enough. We need to bring in more of the industrial business, the warehouse business, not the Amazon type warehouse, smaller warehouses that will help diversify the tax base.
Same question for you, JT.
So, I come from the commercial private sector. I know what it's like to be in these meetings where companies are looking to build a new sales office or a new fabrication shop. I know what kind of questions they ask behind closed doors. So, I know what questions to ask them in these meetings with the city. But bottom line, these companies want to know that we support them. I've gone around and talked to a lot of companies within Manvel, And they all kind of have the same tune, that they avoid the city and city council like the plague. You know, they don't want to risk upsetting someone or something happening to their business negatively. So they don't do it. But even talking to some of them, like they have great ideas, like, why don't we fast track a permitting process for existing businesses? You know, there's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot that can be accelerated to help business growth or commercial growth responsibly. But this is vital to the city's growth, is for the next 5-10 years, is really courting high value business partnerships. So
Thank you. JT, we're going to start with you on this next question. What specific actions would you take to maintain low local taxes while ensuring a balanced budget and the continued provision of essential city services, including parks and public amenities?
You know, like we've talked about, you know, the only two big buckets that we can really grow is ad valorem, commercial ad valorem properties, and sales tax. So we can't grow property taxes anymore. The Texas legislature has already said they're going to be revamping that in the next few years, potentially. But we need to be courting and looking at businesses. A lot of these businesses nowadays are very employee-centric, so a lot of businesses want to have a park next door to their office for their employees to go, you know, have lunch at. You know, a lot of businesses want to be, you know, open and hip and cool, and they're willing to participate or donate property or do these things, but we won't know unless we have these conversations with them. So we need to be out in front of these businesses and existing partners and new partners, talking about these opportunities.
All right, Jason, same question.
So when it comes to balancing the budget and the process, I think the biggest specific thing that I would put my finger on would be engagement. The budget process shouldn't just be rubber stamping what the city manager gives you. I would spend time specifically looking at the details, as I have in the past, to see where we're spending our money, why we're spending our money, and how we're spending our money, and making sure that I feel like if I'm voting for it, that money is being well spent. I have a documented history of voting for and against the budget if I didn't believe that the budget was well balanced or money wasn't spent the way I felt was the best and highest use of the tax dollars. So again, specifically, it would be deep engagement during the budget process so that we know what we're getting into, what we're signing off on.
All right, Jason, our next question. As our population grows, the demand on police and emergency services increases. How will you ensure that Manvel's public safety departments are adequately funded, staffed, and equipped to keep our community safe?
Public safety is budget item number one for me, and I think I have an absolutely proven track record that while on council, I fought for more police officers. It was frightening to me at a time when I served on council that there could be as few as 2 cops on the street in this city at one time, and I never want to be in that position again. Also, if I hadn't dug my heels in with the previous city manager, our police force would still be working out of 2 trailers on Masters Road. I fought hard to convince council to build that police station, and I'm really, really proud of that. So those are the areas that I would look to do. And if there are other areas that we need to cut back on to ensure public safety, and I'm not saying that public safety is the only thing to get money. There are lots of other departments in the city that need to be funded. But for too long, we underfunded that department. And I think that we need to make sure that we're looking at all the areas of the budget to make sure that we're spending in the right areas at the right times.
All right, JT, same question.
You know, I've listened to a lot of these forums, and this seems to be a recurring theme that our officers are underpaid compared to the surrounding cities. And to compensate for our growth, we have to fund and support the police. That's paramount. I know we've made strides. You know, we got benefits for some of the officers. Some of the officers have take-home vehicles now. I know last year we voted for a 7% increase for all city services on payroll. It's great. I know we were trying to bring 6 or 7 new officers in last year, but we did the 7% raise instead. Maybe we needed that more. I don't know. But I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of our officers in the city, and they are awesome. They're great people. In order to keep those people, we need to pay them and make sure that they stay. They say you judge a tree by the fruit it bears. If it's a priority to the city, then payment and funding would have happened. But it has to happen. Like, we have to make sure that our officers are paid comparable wages to the surrounding municipalities, so we don't lose our quality.
All right, JT, we're going to start the next question with you. How would you improve transparency and communication from the City Council to citizens about current projects, financial decisions, and long-term plans?
I think the city's done a really good job in the last few years of really increasing transparency. We record all of our meetings. It's all posted online. I'm sure we've all seen Mayor Dan's videos and social media posts and about upcoming projects and all, which has been great. The only complaint I have is that it's really hard to go back and find specific details on specific projects. You'd have to look through all the meeting minutes or watch a lot of videos to try to find specific answers. I would love to see some sort of AI search tool where you can really, quickly say, hey, what's going on with this project? What's going on with this address? What happened in the last meeting? And get a quick synopsis or link to a video to find out what's going on in the city. So we're in the age of AI, so we might as well let it, use it to our advantage.
All right, Jason, same question.
I'm going to go a little more low tech and say, during my first couple years on council, I spent time going to HOA meetings and sitting down and talking to people, and that's a practice that I'd like to re-engage in. There are many more homeowners associations now than there were my first two go-arounds. But also, I like the idea of having office hours, if you will, that, setting time that, I can be at City Hall or be at Duncan or Bighorn and just say, hey, I'm going to be here at these times and, come in and let's talk if you have questions. During the campaign, I've had an opportunity to do that, wearing my name tag around and people stopping and talking at HEB or at Dunkin' Donuts, where I spend too much of my time and money. But it's been good to, talk to people, and I think there are a bunch of folks that, to JT's point, it's difficult for them to navigate things online and find. So I would spend more time with people.
All right. Jason, Manvel is known as a fast-growing, desirable place to live. How do you propose to manage housing development to ensure a variety of options are available while maintaining the quality of life that drew residents here in the first place?
Well, I think I sort of started to answer that question already, and my focus would not be on residential development. I think that there are already plenty of planned residential developments that haven't even broken ground yet. I think in order to preserve the areas that we're looking at, we need to change our focus to look at different development. That's going to help lower the number of cars on the road and traffic and rooftops that actually cost us money, and then bring in these other businesses that have a higher and better tax value but lower impact on the communities. And that's where I think I would focus. I would like us to focus on in order to preserve our rural communities. There's been some talk too, a development that went in that the City Council unanimously said, would love to see these 1 acre lots. Well, is that feasible? I'd like to talk to developers and see whether something like that is even feasible before we go and mandate that. But I think the biggest thing is changing, where we're looking at that development.
JT?
People are attracted to Manvel because of its open rural ideas and its DNA, right? But I think something society's kind of yearning for is that family-centric living. Modern families want that multi-generational estate to help. It takes a village to raise kids, or help take care of the grandparents or parents. If someone wants to build a mother-in-law suite off the back of their house to be able to send their kids to college to combat high cost of living for on-campus living, we should be helping support that. Or if grandparents want their kids or their grandkids to move in on site to help take care of them. Just because someone's getting older doesn't mean that they should have to move out of the city into a retirement home. They should be able to stay on the estate that they've bought and maintained for all these years. So I'd like to see the city support ventures like that more.
All right, we're on our last question now. JT, in what ways would you involve and leverage Manvel's growing business community to assist in city initiatives, projects, or committees?
You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I've talked to a lot of businesses here in Manvel, and again, they all have the same theme, that they all avoid the city, city council, or city services like the plague. You know, I think I don't think we have very many city council members that go to these businesses and ask, how are you doing? How can we help you grow? Or businesses they don't have a vested interest in, right? But I don't think we have that open dialogue enough. I think we play a lot of lip service to it and talk how great we like our business partners, but I don't think we're doing enough to really see what their needs are. So before we start leveraging them for our needs and our benefit, I think we should really be building that foundation, that relationship to support local businesses.
Jason?
I agree. We need to spend more time with those businesses to see what their needs are. But also, I think that there are opportunities to do partnerships with our businesses. You know, he made the comment that, you know, a business might want a park for their employees to come to, and if we go and we learn things like that, then maybe we find a way to partner with that business to say, hey, look, the city can't afford to build the whole thing, but maybe, you know, you give us a hand and we'll build it, or naming rights to something to help build that. But I think the biggest thing has got to be boots on the ground and talking to the businesses, you know, building those relationships. And again, it has to be from the beginning. You know, the city is difficult to work with. You know, I've worked with clients that have had business in front of the city council, and you know, business still has a hard time dealing with the city. And I think we have to start there and working with their business partners to build trust and a relationship from the beginning.
All right. It's now time for the closing statements. You're each going to get 2 minutes for your closing statement, and we are going to start with Jason.
You think on the last question I'd be able to operate this bloody mic. So again, I want to thank the Chamber for having us. I want to thank everybody who's come out. For the folks that have already come out to vote, I want to thank them for coming out to vote. For those of you that are watching this that haven't come out, don't forget to come out on Saturday. It's going to be really important to make a choice and be involved in your government. I wasn't born in Manvel, but I chose Manvel. You know, I've lived a life in service. I love this community. I'm very active in my own neighborhood. I love where we're going, and I'd like to be part of where we are in the future. And I hope that you'll give me that opportunity to be part of leadership in the city and taking us in the direction that we're looking to go. You know, if you elect me, I promise to be open and transparent. I promise that there will be times that we won't agree, but we will disagree respectfully, and that I will always work for you and make the best decisions in my mind for the city, for all of us, even if they're not the ones that I think are right for me personally or for you personally. But if it's right for the city, that's what matters.
All right, your closing statement, JT.
Finish strong. So yeah, I can't tell if you can tell or not. I'm not a politician. I'm not I don't come from a long pedigree of public servants or city officials. I don't strive to be the governor or you know, senator one day. I am a father, a business owner that is vested here in this city. So the Texas legislature, like we talked about earlier, they've already kind of signaled that changes are coming to property taxes and the way that those are done. So we really need to be focusing on growing our commercial footprint in the city. I think I'm a good candidate for that, coming from the commercial world. You know, and we have to make sure that our city council has that same focus and that same mission. You know, the city is like a big business, and city council is kind of like that sales force for that business. And it's our responsibility to make sure we stay in the black and the lights stay on and everything else, but we also have to make sure we're the custodians of our customers' needs, which are our citizens. Sometimes I think it's easy for city council to forget who our customers are, because without our customers, without our citizens, we don't have a business, we don't have a city. So hopefully, if you agree with this, and if you want someone who is citizen-minded and from the citizenry, I humbly ask for your vote. You can learn more about me at jtformanville.com. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the Manvel City Council portion of our forum. Thank you to each of the candidates for sharing your vision for Manvel's future and for your willingness to serve this growing community. Let's give them a round of applause.
This concludes our 2026 local candidate election forum. I hope you had a lot of great information. Thank you again to Redeemer Church here in Manvel on Highway 6 for opening up the doors for us and letting us use their AV equipment. And then also thank you, Carolyn, for doing all the moderating. Again, to you, everyone who's watching, mostly important, go out and vote. Early voting is now over. The last day to vote is Saturday, May 2nd. Make sure you're there. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll do it again next time.